Namaskaram to everyone. We'll take up the 13th Doha, please. गांधी दामन बांधई नहीं नारी से हा, कहे कबीर था साधु की हम चरणन की खेह, कबीरा हम चरणन की खेह। गांधी दामन बांधई नहीं नारी से हा, कहे कबीर था साधु की हम चरणन की खेह, कबीरा हम चरणन की खेह। Now the message here is very familiar, prevalent. In the text Bhajagovindam. Now the title for this Doha, he says, the holy saint. He who is not bound by wealth and woman. Gandhi daman na bandhi, nahi nari se aha. One who is not bound by wealth and woman. He is a saint. Kahe Kabir ta sadhu ki hum charanan ki khe. I am just a humble dust of his hallowed feet. Look at that humility of this man. Oh my God. So humble. In fact, these are the traits of spiritual growth. You are so humble. So the message is very clear. He who is not bound by wealth and woman, he is a saint. Now, wealth and woman, as we have learned, are only talking of the two primary pursuits of mankind. And he who is not bound by those two primary pursuits. What are the two primary pursuits? Everyone, no exception. And only a holy saint is an exception to that rule. And the primary purpose, they have made it a primary purpose. That is not the purpose for which you are born. Please don't get me wrong. Huh? You have made it your purpose, not realizing your fundamental purpose for which you are born, not realizing that the purpose everybody is running behind is acquisition and enjoyment. Kanchana, wealth symbolizes acquisition. Kamini, woman, symbolizes enjoying your possessions. So one is acquisition, second is enjoyment. So one who is not bound by these pursuits, that's what the great Shankaracharya also puts it, Mudha dahihi, Mudha jahihi dhanagama trishna, Kuru sadbuddhim manasi vitrishna. He says, oh fool, give up the slavish thirst for this pursuit. Give up that thirst, give up the obsession for this pursuit, not the wealth per se. Give up that obsessive urge, obsessive craving, the desire for proprietorship. I've got this Let me get hold of that. I've enjoyed this. Let me enjoy that. That kind of a constant obsession. So Kabirji puts it so succinctly, so beautifully, and he's also echoing the thoughts of the great masters, just to establish that the truth which have been presented in different times in history. These men had their own language, their own contemporary thought and language. They spoke in something which appealed to them, the masses then, but the truth is the same. I can't clearly know when was Adi Shankaracharya and when was Sant Kabir. Obviously, they didn't exist in the same time period, and yet they speak the same truth. And nobody don't go and start Googling as to when they were. Don't get distracted. That is for you to find out later on. Just a little cue is required, you will get distracted. Don't go and do Googling now, please. What's the objective here? The spiritual texts, whenever we come across these ideas, the spiritual texts make us realize. What do we make us realize? Realize the hollowness of our pursuits. How futile and hollow is the pursuit of this acquisition and enjoyment. Point one. Secondly, they make us also realize, they give us the conviction to do something more sensible in life, something more purposeful, something more meaningful. So two things. It helps you realize the hollowness and absurdity of our pursuit. Secondly, gives us a conviction that you can pursue something higher and make your life more meaningful. So a true saint, the holy saint, is not bound by wealth and women. Now, why does one acquire wealth? The people go berserk. They say, as long as I have the capacity to earn, let me earn. And while they go out into the world acquiring, they go berserk, as if they go running helter-skelter. Let me lay my hands on all I can. And what drives that frenzied pursuit? It's a frenzy. And what drives that pursuit fundamentally is a mental insecurity. And the folly of that pursuit is they believe wealth can offset that mental insecurity. Now, I'm not suggesting, nor is the text suggesting to be foolish. You should get, as honestly you have earned the resources of the world, you honestly earned it. Don't be foolish with them. Keep it for your own future security. But remember, that will not give you the security. You do it with the understanding there's no security in that. To get that, you need a lot of wisdom. The real wisdom, to understand that there is no security in it, you need a lot of wisdom. And philosophically, you'll understand. If I were to question you all, you will rattle off the truth because you've heard it. But are you applying it? Are you truly above it? That you got to gauge yourself, that you got to ask yourself. So the wealth you hoard as a security to protect for your future sorrow. We learned it in the Bhajagovindam. That is known as dukkha nivritti, to avoid sorrow. You acquire wealth to avoid sorrow. Now, very important, however many times we say it, it's important to reiterate that material wealth cannot offset the mental insecurity. You must remember this. The material wealth cannot offset the mental insecurity within. What is the thumping argument you can give that would seal the argument, seal the case? It's like you are in the court of law and the defendant gives an argument and there's no refute to that. I'm referring of a case example I've heard many a time. The entire defendant was arguing on a piece of document, and that was the main evidence of the whole argument. I'm just taking a date, let's say the letter was dated 1950, and that's the proof of the whole document. And the other lawyer, he did a thorough investigation of the whole case, and the guy was going on. And at the end of that case, he presented a proof which would almost break the edifice of the whole argument. And the argument was, the letter was dated 1950. He presented the argument that that paper was manufactured 1953. Oh, 19, correct. The letter is dated 1950. The paper is manufactured 1953. Is it possible? So it's a fake document. And the proof he presented was, he said that particular company which manufactured that paper had been using a specific watermark till that particular year. And from that year on, they changed the watermark from A to B. Let's say they had a cross watermark, and from cross it had become an asterisk, example. And he got that clear document from the directors of the company that, yes, sir, this particular paper was manufactured 1953. And the court, the judge obviously ruled the case in the favor of that person. All your arguments is of no use. You get to the point, you win the point, you win the case. How can you write a letter before the manufacture of the paper? Similarly, you can talk and talk of the entire philosophy. All of it is not going to help you unless and until you give that sweeping argument, which is going to establish that anything material cannot offset the insecurity. Now, what is the argument? What is the logical argument you can give? Nothing new, but it is the fact that these ideas come again and again. This is known as manana. This is the importance of a satsang. This is the benefit of being in a satsang like this, where these ideas get reiterated, reinforced. It's like you keep going to that plant and keep trimming it, keep nurturing it, and that trimming and nurturing it nourishes. You keep clearing the soil, you add a little bit fertilizer to boost it, and then it starts growing. All of that is this. Now, what is that argument? Let me ask Sriniji to begin with.
Pranam Guruji. Good morning.
Namaskar, sir. Yes, sir. Namaskar.
I don't believe I would have the answer. I don't know what the argument would be. I think I don't have the simplistic way to say this is the absolute proof. No. I think the way I see it is you're in a vicious circle of wanting, and the want keeps saying you want more. So I don't know what would stop that.
That's a vicious cycle. You keep falling a prey at every step of the way. At every step of the way.
You know, as you answered it, I just want to have a contra question to that, saying, Well, I would agree that the mental insecurity is the root cause for wealth acquisition. I also may like to argue saying if you did not have wealth, you still would be in the same problem in today's world. So I can understand you keep the acquiring. So the contrast also could be true, right? If you didn't have wealth, how are you going to be happy?
We are not against wealth, nor are the Shastras against wealth. The Shastras are saying one who is not bound by wealth, one who is not a slave to wealth, one who is not fallen a prey to the thirst for acquisition. That's all the point. It's not about wealth nor its quantum. You can be a king, sir. You can live a life of royalty. Are you? Not yet. You have made well enough money for yourself in your life, but you have not reached a royalty. I can say, Sriniji, keep working hard. How long? 100 years until you reach the state of royalty. You're not royalty yet, which means it's real opulence, man. You know what that is.
Yep.
Try till that. Go ahead, go acquire whatever you want. The Shastras have no objection to that, provided you control the thirst this very moment. I'm content and happy this moment. You can acquire what you want. But if you believe that happiness, as we learned last week, is in future acquisitions, you will never be happy. So they're not against material progression. Material, so as we say in a different context, every human being, as we have two set of limbs, the left and the right, there's a balance. I can't imagine if one aspect, right side of my personality is strong and left is weak. I'll be limping, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
I'm not my normal self. Both my limbs must be strong. Similarly, there are two limbs to a human life: the spiritual limb and the material limb. You can't get along with life with only one. You will need both. You can't say, I'll choose either. No, you'll need both. You will need the material aspect. You will need the spiritual aspect. Now, the Shastras only talking of the spiritual aspect. The spiritual aspect is where you're not bound by that wealth, where it doesn't take a precedence over your spiritual element, where you become a slave to it. And when you talk of spiritual and material, which is superior, sir? Spiritual or material?
I think spiritual.
I don't have to tell you that. So material is essential, but yet you need that spiritual element in you. So coming from that argument from the spiritual element, we're only saying that you need to get over that obsession for this. And we are only analyzing that. Why do you get an obsession for acquisition is because of an insecurity which is felt within. And that insecurity is a spiritual lacuna. All of us have that insecurity. And that insecurity is a direct measurement of how hollow one is spiritually within. That's one way of finding out. It's a very beautiful, a powerful tool. One who is full within, he doesn't need. One who is empty within will go out wanting, acquiring. So that's the argument. That's a line of thought. It's not the question of possessing it. It's the question of finding a necessity for it or a dependence on it. You can have it, or you may not have it, but I don't find a desperate need for it. So a job of a guru is to make you self-sufficient. And I can proudly say, when I decided to move on from the institution where I had been for over 25 years, I was born there. My spiritual birth was there. For 25 years, over 25 years, I served my guru. I didn't think of anything else. Nothing else exists in my life. It was him and the cause, because he that drove me. That was the engine. That was the fuel. That was me. Many people used to so much say that they used to see me, they could see resemblances of how the certain mannerisms. It's just that so much I was so absorbed of my guru. It literally, you started emulating unknowingly, unconsciously. You become what you identify with. But when I took his blessings and decided to move on in 2016, not a day I felt the absence of my guru in my life. Not a day. And thanks to his teachings, he has made me self-sufficient, where I can carry on the work without his presence in my life. And there's not a day I don't pay my gratitude to him silently. So I'm not dependent. That's what I'm saying. Tomorrow, the world, something collapses around you. How self-sufficient are you? Tomorrow, all of you pack your bags and say, bid farewell, adieu, bye-bye, sir. Thank you. It was well knowing you. It will not make a dent in my life. My guru himself is not there in my life. Nothing else will. There's nothing greater than not having a guru in your life. And that was a conscious decision I made. There's nothing greater. Everything can be taken away, wiped away, taken away. I tell you, nothing will. That kind of inner resilience and strength and belief and self-sufficiency you develop, rather than just falling a prey to anything external. Don't fall a prey in dependence. That is what we're saying. So that insecurity is a direct measure of your spiritual lacuna, and any amount of material acquisition will not offset the insecurity. It will not offset. And what is that punching argument? I know you said, Sriniji, you would not be commenting on that. No issue. Let me hear from Harish. Any idea, Harish?
Hariom Guruji.
Hariom, Harish.
Guruji, the one thing that just comes to my mind, Guruji, is that I don't know if this is correct or not, but the snares of 99, just one more. We think that just when we get that one more, we will stop, we'll be fine, we'll feel secure. We are almost there. We always strive for that last or that final one to feel then we will stop. We've acquired, we've achieved our goal. But the world constantly throws a new attraction to us, then we keep going into that, the snares of 99, or just that one more time, just that one more acquisition. I don't know if I'm answering this correctly.
You're making an apt statement, but not answering the question.
Okay.
The question is, why cannot your material acquisition offset the security which is felt within? Insecurity that's felt within. It doesn't answer. It's like the other lawyer fairly arguing, very fairly argued, but that doesn't seal the case. This wouldn't seal the case. But you're a very apt point that this snares, we get caught up in the clutches. It's like you get caught in that snare. You need someone to come and help you, rescue you. You can't get out of it. Only a guru can come and rescue you from the spiritual snare. It's like you find when you go into the wild, sometimes these animals get caught in a snare, and it's almost life-threatening. It could be even in the waters that these fishes get caught in the fishing nets, and they are not able to relieve themselves or release themselves from that knot they get caught up in. Somebody else has to come and cut it off. So that knot, that bond of this acquisition enjoyment, somebody has to come and snap it. And a guru will only snap if you allow him to. Otherwise, you say, carry on. How long will you be having this childish attachment? Carry on. He will not come one step forward if you have an attachment. Not a step, not an inch forward. Carry on. Attach to it. Hold on to it. That's not the thing. No problem. Padmini Ma, I like your reaction. You know? And people don't answer until you ask for. Pinky Ma, I'm trying to generate a process of analysis. Why do you comment or answer until it is sought? Please hold back your answers. Not whether it's right or wrong, but please think along. You know, isn't it easy for me to say the answer? It's very easy for me to say the answer. But why are we going through this exercise? It's not to test anybody's understanding. It's to make us think. That's all. Please, ma. Okay. Yeah, Padmini Ma.
Yeah. Why can't your material acquisition offset your insecurity felt within? Is that what I am supposed to answer? Because happiness is not something which you get from external sources. It is felt within. So however you try to acquire, it is there outside, but if it doesn't come to your use and when you need it, maybe you, if I try to give an example, like you have a lot of assets in stocks and other things, and suddenly the market crashes, then what is the point in accumulating all these things?
I think we have lost you, Ma. I think we've lost you. All right. We got what you're saying, but I would still be open for any further arguments. Any idea, Reddy Garu?
Pranam Guruji.
Namaskar.
Question is very simple but very complicated to answer that the way good. I'm just close to that. I'm not able to comprehend. Is it okay when we're talking about material wealth cannot offset mental insecurity within us? Is a one punching statement means that punching statement we talk about. Is it for self-realization that are we in a Maya, of realizing that we are in a Maya and we keep striving for that materialistic positions? But again, question comes back to me that how do you realize it? Is again, somebody who realizes that I'm wasting my pursuit on a wrong side. If the moment he realizes, he stops getting into that, because till he doesn't know, the ignorance, he keeps striving for that. The moment he realizes that, I think I'm wasting my life in these things, it's not really called for, then stop looking for other direction. So that's the point at which someone has to reflect it. I don't know how do I put it across.
You're talking of the point of realization, but the point we're saying is, how do I even present this argument to someone logically and establish that there is enough truth in it? Because the world wants scientific, logical argument. You just can't talk in a abstract manner. They can't accept it. We can't be abstract. What you're saying is there's a lot of abstractness in it, which I can relate exactly what you say. But a lay person will not be convinced with that. How do you convince a lay person? Is the point. What's the argument? Okay, sir.
Okay, Guruji.
I'll hear from JBKG.
Jai Gurudev.
Jai Gurudev. Namaskar, sir.
Namaskar. Today we are seeing the corona time, the people going to hospital who they have around 20, 30 doctors, eminent doctors, but the money could not help anything. They have to just whatever the money they have, wealth they have, all the not helped. Certain places where we find most of the things we cannot buy. Things and that is truly seeing every day, but still we think that this material, this wealth will have a security to the extent that the greediness is only the greediness. To the extent what is required, that has to be there. That part is, but people think that this will help for me. That help many times. We are seeing that is not helping us.
True. Money can't. There's a saying, no, money can buy you medicine, but money can't buy you health.
But the question is, they all were wealth created. The families are getting disturbed. The children going into totally a wrong path, and ultimately they found that this money, instead of helping, it is created, fallen down the value system of the family, and most of the children, they want the sports car and all. I see a number of people, they are not really to give such sports cars to the children, but with the pressure and can't help it, and finally they lost the children. So many cases, the clubs and this addicting to all sort of things, the money is created, most of the cases, instead of happiness, brought unhappiness, what we are seeing day to day. Unless how to use it, the purpose of without value system, the money is the enemy. Is not the rescue. It brings all sort of day to day the problem, income tax problem, other the type of thefts, and people are also killing the people to get their own security. One security, we are thinking that this will have security to us, but the same security people are killing, what we have seen a number of cases in the houses.
Correct. In fact, you are just reminding us of the 29th verse of Bhajagovinda. He says, Artham anartham. Wealth is calamitous. Wealth is dangerous. Very few people know how to contact wealth. In fact, if I have to test your detachment, I can test your level of detachment on money. How detached you are with wealth clearly tells me how you behave with either wealth or your material possession, because money is only something which can be transacted with objects. It's a commodity. It can be exchanged. Now, how attached you are to wealth, how spiritual you are, is measured with how attached you are to wealth, or your possessions or things that you can barter with. With money, you can buy color and form, touch. If I come to your house and I like a beautiful carpet, I say, give that carpet. You're very devoted to the Guru, but suddenly you become quiet. It's a silk Kashmiri carpet I have got. How can I part with it? I can't part with it. Thank you, GBK ji. Namaskar. Ramji, what is that critical statement?
Namaste Guruji. I am not able to think of anything in a single sentence. But I think everyone has told whatever are the normal arguments. But to explain to a common man what could be that single sentence, I am not able to think of.
Okay. All right. You're being very upright. Appreciate that. Pinky ma, abhi boliye.
Sorry, Guruji. I was also thinking, I didn't know that I'm not supposed to post. I just thought that is the answer.
No,
That's
not that not supposed to post, but just that, when trying to go through a process of extraction of this knowledge, it's best we refrain so that you don't give a cue to someone to think. Because I'm holding back, not wanting to give a cue, and you give it out and you spell it out. That's where I said, please hold back.
I didn't know that it's the right one. That was my understanding only. Anyway, I'll keep it in mind now. Next time.
I am not saying it's the right one.
Okay.
Either.
I thought you said I gave a cue. So I didn't know if it's right or wrong. I just thought like that.
I'm very sorry.
Okay.
Yes. Go ahead,
So-
explain yourself, ma. Yes.
Well, if you're saying from the point, that was my understanding. If you say from the point of view of telling a layperson what it is, then the mind, if you're saying the mental insecurity, now the mind is not something which is steady. It is wandering, chanchal, asthira, wants
Hello.
one thing, another
You are wandering from the answer you said.
That's why I
Don't
said,
wander. Hello. I'm again giving you a cue. Don't wander from what you said. What did you say?
I said the
Read.
gross do not affect the subtle.
That's all you need to say.
That I said.
No, you didn't say. Now you have to say, not what you have put in the chat box. Now you say it becomes official.
Okay.
The
Sir,
judge will only hear from the mouth. You have to say it. No, I didn't imply. No implication. Directly spell it out.
Okay.
Now the judge has heard it. The case is yours. You
So
won the
the
case.
gross material is gross and the mind is subtle. So the gross
Correct.
can't affect the subtle.
This is the law of life. The argument you got to give, and then you can expand further. Mental insecurity cannot be offset by material acquisitions. Now, I intentionally did not use the term mental in the statement when I used earlier. I just said security because then I would have given a cue there. So I'm even to spell a word, I'm very conscious not to. So the insecurity cannot be offset by wealth, I said, acquisition of wealth, but mental insecurities cannot be offset by material acquisitions. Material is gross and tangible. Insecurity or happiness is subtle. So the gross cannot influence or change the subtle. This is a law. It is not an opinion. It's a law of life. Gross cannot influence the subtle. It's subtle that controls the gross. Since gross cannot influence the subtle, wealth cannot offset the security. It can give you a false belief. It can give you a false assurance. But in effect, it doesn't offset. As Haresh rightly said, in spite of all that you acquired, where are you all the time? You're all the time in the state of snares of 99. You still want one more. That snare you always are caught up in. You are never out of it. That is what if this understanding is there, you will not fall a prey. You'll not go into that, that rat race, as we will say, for grabbing, acquiring, wanting. That would end. You would be in the race to win the race of life. As Venkatramanji will say, you too can run. He'll say, yes, you must run. Yes, sir, we will seek your guidance, sir. Solungo. You want to run, sir, but not like a rat race, sir.
Thank you. So basically, I feel that whether you value spiritual aspects of life or the material aspect also has to do a lot with the company that you are in. And they say that it is the societal pressures, what that society celebrates around you, that determines what your outcome of your own life is. So if you're in a satsang like this, then obviously you'll veer towards spiritual values. But if you're in a materialistic group of friends, say Trade and Commerce Industry Association or something like that, which is all about business, then you will go into the materialistic leaning. So it also depends upon the kind of people you surround yourself with, the kind of time that you spend yourself with, the kind of content that you consume.
True.
Which discourses like this help us to become more spiritual than material.
In fact, spiritual will also help you acquire better, sir. Acquire more in a better way. In an effortless way, you can acquire. In sense, it gives you a stress-free life. You can be a businessman and acquire wealth without stress, without the mental anxiety. I remember. I've just sorry.
There is an entire
No.
series of books written called Spiritual Capitalism.
Mhm.
Which basically takes the same philosophy in a Western context and says that you can be spiritual, but you can also be capital.
They have just taken one small feather out of this book, sir, and they are using modern jargons to gain some publicity, and they're making so much noise about it.
Correct.
No, but you're very right, sir. Thank you. But and as you say this, I'm reminded of a conversation I had with my guru, with my family, when my sister's wedding was being planned 20 years ago. And he educated us, just analysis. We just sat and we had, because my father was very excited getting his daughter married. He was an honest man, was a government servant. It's not that he was flushed with resources. He was not a business magnate and things. He was an honest man. He had his savings. And my Swamiji was educating us, don't blow up all your money on a single day. Whom are you trying to impress? Whom are you trying to impress? He educated us. And what an analysis, what an analysis. I can't forget that, and I will not say that here. But you will just blow it up on a few days. There will be Sangeet, there will be this and that, and you will want to do that there, you want to do that here, you will call 2,000 people and you will feed them and this gift and that gift. Who am I trying to impress? End of the day, if you do that, they'll come and say, all black money. Other day I heard somebody saying, I don't know who said that, some wedding or something they attended, and the remark, I think, where are you, Pushpama? Are you there? She was telling this to, I think, correct, I remember. Meer cheppar kada, you were saying this. Isn't it? Remember the conversation we had other day? Thanks, Venkatramanji.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. You remember cheppandi.
It is not the marriage, actually it is sincere puja. After attending the puja, after getting all the things what they gave, they were commenting that they have a lot of money and black money and all.
Correct. Correct. So he was talking not of marriage, he was talking of puja. Somebody goes to great length celebrating a ritual, and each person who are invited for the puja would be given a big bag of goodies. And those who came, many people came to the puja more for the bag of goodies than the puja itself. And those who took that, and the talk amongst them was, all flushed with black money, therefore what do? They're trying to give away gifts like this. Look at the people who are benefited. You invite them for an occasion, for a ritual, you feed them, you give them, you thank them for coming, and they go back and they do backstab. This is what people do. This is what people do. So whom are you trying to impress with all that pomp and glory? Oh, I want to celebrate my child's wedding in a grand way. You are only asking for, you're attracting wrong people. Rather you can, I don't want to say, I don't want to get into that. What you do with your money is your problem. What have I got to do with it? Yaredi Garu.
Guruji, I could able to get the meaning of grass can't affect the settle, but how we can able to make this statement more applicable to a common man? Because because that's immediately coming into our mind. So whenever we interact with the people, and definitely this terminology can't get into their comprehension of understanding what is a gross settle. And something like when you say punching statement, that a statement should able to think through them also, make them to churn in their minds and thoughts. Is it something can, maybe it's my over expectation, anticipating an answer of one single line to explain to the people or convince them, to nearby people whom we can able to direct them, guide them, or not only to them, even to ourselves.
Yes. See, obviously, as I said, it's a very important statement which seals the case, but you got to expand it further to explain it. See, in our own experiences, in fact, all your experience actually establishes it. It's just that we don't observe our experiences. Any object will have a charm until you acquire it.
That's true.
You
That's
may
true.
want a watch, you may want a phone, you may want a bungalow, you may want a car, you may want any object. That object will have a charm until you get it. Once you get it, what happens to the object?
It evaporates.
Huh? Object evaporates.
Not object evaporates, but thought and desire get evaporates, because the moment you acquire it, then you lose that interest and you lose that, what do you call
so
it?
the charm the object had for you, the attraction the object drew you towards it, instantly disappears the moment you get the object, isn't it? Why is it? Yet you are running behind it, thinking, doing manana, meditation on that object. Yeah? Nitya smarana, constantly thinking of that until you get it. Once you got it, there's nothing big deal having it. Next what? Another snare, as Hare said, something else you're worshipping. This is one of the arguments to tell you that there is no happiness in it. And also the argument, as we were saying in the court, wealth can only buy you gross things. Wealth cannot buy you subtle things. As Ramatirtha says, iron and gold are good for buying iron and gold. That's all. The famous words of Ramatirtha. You can't buy anything better than iron and gold with iron and gold. You can't anything buy any better than that. So what can't iron and gold buy you? Obviously, we said iron and gold can't buy you peace of mind. As GBKG was saying, those who have hired the best of securities, the security themselves have attacked and robbed them. So just by having a security in the house, in fact, I knew of a student who had, she had almost close to 7-8 maids in the house, a palatial bungalow she had. I knew the whole family, they started in the classes. And one time she was coming and lamenting to me, Guruji, I have a problem. What's the problem? My server, my driver and my maid ran away with the car. We were away traveling abroad. We all the time, they're busy business, they're traveling all the time. And when we are away, my driver and my maid. The car we will get back, but I have a constant worry because I have kids in the house. I have my mother-in-law in the house. You know, I can always buy, but I don't want anything happening to my children, you know, to my family. So insecurity. Yeah? Whether to have maids or don't have maids now. If you want to know what a maid can do, I would strongly recommend you all to watch that movie, A £1 Million Note. I think, okay, please Google and find out who written the play, A £1 Million Note movie. I want to know who has, can't recall that movie, £1 Million Note. Hariji, you remember, do you know the movie £1 Million Note? No idea. Okay. In fact, we all should watch. These are all classic movies, you know. Once we get the institute going, we'll create an environment where we can all watch educational documentaries or classic documentaries, which are movies like this, which really give us an indirect way of learning. You know? And the whole thing depends on how the maid hides that he has a £1 million note, and the maid hides it, and all the reputation is gone. He doesn't find it because of nobody has heard about that £1 million note. But yeah, 1954 movie by Gregory Peck. But who has directed that? Oh, is it a yes, Hariji?
I mean, I'm only reading it. It's the gentleman called Ronald Neame. He was the director.
Okay. Ronald Neame. All right. Okay. But I think there's only one movie, isn't it? £1 million note.
Absolutely.
It's a classic. I think I'll tell you. We'll try to get hold of it. If we can get hold of that copy, somebody can explore. Is it available? We should place an order. We should get that. So, is it to have a maid is a blessing or a curse, sir? So, you know, so it can only give you gross. It can't give you mental security. Food can give you only. Money can buy you food. Sorry, money can't give you appetite.
But Guruji, I'm sorry to interrupt here. Why this simple thought is not getting to the people who are knowledgeable, educated? I'll just take a minute and try to give a case study. We have an old age home just neighbor to my house there, just 2 houses away. I keep visiting them, and there are all old age people used to be taken care by someone. All of a sudden, about a month back, they asked to vacate that particular premises. So I was inquiring what was the reason. This is the landlord wants about a 10% increase, maybe around 3,000 to 5,000 rupees an increase on the rental, which they can't offer. They requested, but the gentleman is not agreed for. And ultimately, they have to vacate it because they can't make it to pay. And precisely about a week back, I came to know the landlord also stays at the left side of where I stay. I was not knowing who is the landlord, about a couple of houses away. There was a raid by Anti-Corruption Bureau. They found about 2 kg gold in the house and amazing properties across the Hyderabad. And now he's behind the bar. It's come in the newspaper and everything. And I think he was somewhere about Deputy Commissioner of Police or something like of a designation he was. Can't you think of a gentleman and who has amazing wealth and the gold, and you find so many things he's having, and could not able to give away around 3,000 to 5,000 rupees. They have been paying the rent, but again, a 3,000 to 5,000 rupees increase in rent made him to vacate them. And that's again, it's an old age home. I could just not think about it. He's not an layman. We're talking about a DCP level. I'm sure he should have some wisdom in his life where he might have been grown and seen the challenges.
This is a classic example of lack of wisdom. How gross a person can be. This is what it is. It is just sheer grossness. Very sad to hear. But this is a tip of the iceberg, sir. This is just a tip of the iceberg. The reality of it is mind-boggling. How that greed and avarice and that how one has become a human mind has become a prey for acquisition is staggering. In fact, you can put entire humanity into that category. Nobody is exempt from it, except, as he says, a holy saint. So it requires a lot of wisdom not to fall a prey to it. It requires a lot of conviction. A lot of conviction.
Yes,
Thank you, Ji. Yes, Hari Ji.
Guruji, any amount of my talking to my neighbors or my people will never be able, I will never be able to convince them that the gross cannot satisfy the subtle. I have to live that myself. That's the only one way that I can influence. Otherwise, talk will remain as a talk.
No, but one simple advice, Hariji, not to you, but to myself, I'm saying, we should talk standing in front of the mirror.
Yes.
If at all you want to talk, stand in front of the mirror and talk. So that there's some change in our life. That's what you're saying, you know.
Yeah, I have to live. I have to live it. My life will speak for itself.
It has to speak. That's when it will impact. And the only way you can offset this greed for acquisition, what is the opposite of it? I'll come back to Sriniji. So now thanks, Hariji. Thank you, sir. So the point, does it resonate now?
Yes, it does. I mean, the mental security cannot offset the material acquisition. I get that. And yeah.
Right. So the opposite of that, to ensure that one is not a slave to these material possessions, what's the quality which you got to practice and start experiencing the beauty and the joy of it? What's the opposite of it?
I see it as contentment. I'm just happy and content with what I have. Then I see that as kind of the root cause for not acquiring more. If I'm content with what I have.
Contentment is a state. You can't practice contentment. I'm saying a quality to practice which will offset this quality of acquiring.
Greed, avariciousness.
I'm saying the opposite. What is the opposite quality you have to practice?
I do not want to get into the concept of saying giving, which could be one answer, because I really don't think that would be, I don't see that.
Why not?
It seems obvious, but I'm not there as yet. So let us take a case of a simple man like Kabir, who was certainly not materially wealthy, but he was spiritually very strong. So, or wealthy, if you want to say. So the question is, what is he giving? He's not giving material wealth out. He's giving he's giving spiritual wisdom out, right? You could argue saying that is part of giving. Therefore, he's all right. It seems very almost trite to say giving gets you, the action of giving gets you to say, I am not in the acquisition mode. I'm not there as yet, to be honest. I think there's something deeper.
Either you grab it or you let go of it. So the two expressions, that's all that exists in life. Whether one is ready for it or not is subjective. I'm not being personal here. I'm just saying philosophically, either you keep grabbing or you keep sharing your privilege and convenience with others. Either you grab for myself or you think in the larger interest of a cause you believe in.
So let me play that same exact. So either you grab is one, which is acquisition. The other is not having the concept of grabbing, which means I am content. I do not want. There's no greed. It is not a question of giving. See, that's where I'm struggling with, right?
Sir, you being a corporate man,
right?
You have held positions at the helm and you grew up the ladder in your corporate career. As a man with a capacity, you had at every level, you had every capacity to do anything you want. If a person in that position thinks of his own interests and grab and misuse or abuse the opportunities you had, how would a person who abuses and thinks for himself and grabs from the organization, what would be his position in the organization? Vis-a-vis, you have used your talents, your thoughts, your energies to advance the good of the organization. The spirit of giving, we are not talking of actual parting. We're talking of the spirit of giving or the spirit of grabbing. What would be his stance? What respect that person would command if he was a sacrificer, who was a giver, giving all the time in the interest of the organization? He shed his selfishness. He shed his personal interests. What would be his stance? Would he feel insecurity? Would he feel insecurity in the organization ladder?
No, not at all. I mean, you don't be a leader when you're in the former. There's no question. Yeah. That I get.
Sir, when we say taker is selfishness, in familiar terms, a selfish man can never be secure. An unselfish man can never be insecure. Go out into the world and find out. I'm almost challenging you. No selfish man is secure in his life. No unselfish man is insecure. I can tell through experience. I've never been insecure in my life. That doesn't exist in my dictionary. It's nothing. And you don't have to take it because I'm saying so. I'm saying that's why go and challenge it, find out and examine, experiment on that truth. The moment you are a taker, what it creates within. The moment you have been a giver, not giving is not writing checks and giving, please. Don't take it as only material things. The spirit of giving. In my interaction with you all, I can still have a spirit of taking or a spirit of giving. It's a spirit that matters, not that actual giving. And where that spirit is, it translates into action. It's not that I'm chalk and cheese. I talk one thing, I do something. I'm a hypocrite then. No, if I'm a giver, I'm a giver. If I'm a taker, I'm a taker. So that very act and thought, first it starts with a thought and then translate into an action.
No, I get if you say the spirit of giving, I totally am aligned with you on that. I get that.
But what holds one back from giving is attachment to wealth.
True.
One has to grow out of it one day.
So Guruji, there is a very famous writer. He's a well-known business writer. Since you through the corporate world, and since you are keen on watching $1 million movie, I would ask you to read this good author.
I would not watch $1 million movie. It's £1 million note.
£1 million note. I'm sorry.
Not dollar. I am not interested in dollar. I'm only interested in a pound.
It's 1.26 times heavier. That's true.
That's the reason I'm looking for a pound. Why do you think I want to spend my time on a dollar? I want to be wise. I don't want to be foolish. Same effort, I can get more, isn't it?
True.
Yes, sir.
No, he's a good author called Jim Collins. And we normally use Jim Collins in he's a very good speaker. We've had him in my prior life to come and talk to our executives. And he has monetized his teaching. Most business and management principles are very simple, right? And in one of his books, which is one of his most famous books, which he wrote second, called Good to Great, he has a concept of leadership, and he defines leaders and CEOs who are more successful than others, and he calls it the level 5 leadership, which is exactly what you're saying. A level 5 leadership is of a person who's more caring, has high empathy, and he's not asking for recognition. And generally, those kinds of leaders tend to last longer and be more successful, and the companies are more enduring. So that's his thesis. I'm just trying to say.
These truths, however they have packaged it, however they have communicated it, these are immortal truths. They'll not die. Either I rise up to that level or I fall short. It's all individual appreciation of these values, but these values are beyond doubt. You don't have to go and do a verification of it. If you have that faith and then yet question it, experiment on it, and then start imbibing those principles, then you walk the talk. That's all. No, you just walk that way, and every step in the direction, you become a leader, assuring others around you. What you learn from the Shastras, you walk, you become the authority, and then you can talk. I am not referring because the text is saying. I say my own experience, I'm assuring you, man. If you have faith and believe in me, just do what I say. I can take that authority. I'm not taking that stance. I'm just giving the arguments or the logic behind it. But once you experience, you become, Anubhavam becomes authority, not the Shastras. You get it? You don't have to take because they said so, because I have experienced it, man. It's a pratyaksha, the direct experience. That can't be questioned. So there is no fallacy in the concept. But there's nothing wrong in wealth. In fact, if you go back to Bhajagovindam, we have spent enough time on that. So it is not the wealth that creates insecurity. It is the wrong approach to wealth that gives insecurity. It is your wrong relationship with wealth that creates insecurity, not wealth per se. It's your wrong attachment to wealth. Attachment is a selfish relationship. So it is a selfish relationship to wealth that creates insecurity, not wealth per se. There's nothing wrong with wealth. Let's not demonize it. In fact, we divinize wealth, don't we? We call it goddess Lakshmi. When you see goddess Lakshmi, she's decked with, as Pushpama was saying yesterday, she's decked with, jewelry and gold, and she's glittering and dazzling. You look at goddess Lakshmi, and there's all wealth all around her. When you look at a portrait of goddess Lakshmi, and we're divinizing it, we're not demonizing. So let's not say that there's something wrong with wealth. No, something wrong in my attitude and relationship with it, not the wealth per se. And that, I think, is very clear, but it has to be spelt out. And that's when we don't misunderstand it. Right, Sriniji? Thank you. JBKG?
Jai Gurudev.
Yes,
See,
sir.
Goddess Lakshmi, without Saraswati, she will not be there. That's why Kama, Artha, both are required with Dharma. That's why Dharma, Artha, Kama. Then only you get moksha. Otherwise, no moksha. You mean ultimately you have to have, is it the value based or without values? That is value based, always contentment, content. This content is the ultimate. There is a greed or the minimum required. Is all that will come only. Saraswati is there, then only Buddhi. Without
correct.
That is Lakshmi. So many people have Lakshmi, but that Lakshmi is not there in their house after some time. Many we are seeing every day. Only Saraswati is there, it will come back again.
Absolutely. It'll not. Correct. Very true. Right, sir. Thank you. Hariji?
Guruji, whether it is grabbing or giving, if we have an agenda behind that, I am giving because I want peace, I want happiness, so I am giving. If with that agenda, if I am going to give or I am going to grab, the effect will be same. I will never be able to get my happiness. Because I have I am giving because I want. A very direct selfishness is there in giving. I have learned that by acquisition, I am not going to get happiness, but by giving, I will get happiness. So I am trying to get or buy happiness, which I will never be able to get, whether it is giving or acquiring. The effect will be the same. So I will never be able to get my happiness from outside. Giving is only for giving. not for getting my happiness out of that giving. I am giving because I know that X or Y needs it more than me. So I am giving. Not by giving, I am going to get something out of it. Then that is a business.
Yes, Ji, correct. Appreciate that. Thank you. See, we have also heard from the Gita where he says how sattvic, rajasic, tamasic people deal with wealth. We said, Gayatrima, tamasic, how does a tamasic person deal with wealth?
Tamasic person will not give with wealth at all. He'll possess everything with himself only.
I'm asking the reference in the Gita. He says how tamasic, rajasic, sattvic people. Tamasic people, they eat without contributing. They are just consumers. They will take from the society. They are takers. So he says those people who eat without contributing, he calls them a thief. Stenaha, he calls them, you're a thief. The tamasic people are takers, they don't contribute. I've had people coming and taking and taking and taking. They've never done anything to the cause. And one day they come and tell me, I have got a loss of $500,000, he said. A student comes and tells me, I have got a loss of $500,000. I only had to tell him, you have been a taker, man. And even then he didn't get the point. It's not from me. I don't want anything from you. But you have an attitude of a taker. You will have a loss on it. No? And how the loss came from? Loss came from because of his own child. He had to invest a large sum of money in the education of his child, and the child did not pursue that education. And all that he invested for the child's education gone in drain, waste. Send that child abroad, all that hard-earned money gone. So you don't know how the law of karma works. You keep grabbing without giving, and somehow it's gone. Don't take anything for free. So a fellow who takes and not contributes is a thief, he says. Tamasic fellow. Rajasic people, those who cook for themselves, eat sin. Atma karanat. One is tenaha. Thief is tamasic. Rajasic fellow eats sin. Atma karanat, because they're only cooking for themselves. They don't share their meal with their friends and neighbors. So I cook, it's my earned money, I have prepared, I only will eat. I will eat 3 days. Same thing I will not share it with anybody. Those who cook for themselves eat sin, he says. And then sattvic people, he says, eat the remnants of sacrifice. They also eat, but what do they eat? They eat whatever comes out of a life of sacrifice. Remnants means whatever comes out of their life of giving, means a spirit of giving. They sacrifice themselves for a cause. Whatever comes out of it, they're quite content with that. So Rajasic and Tamasic people are never secure. So what creates insecurity is the wrong approach to wealth. So if you take a Rajasic and Tamasic approach to wealth, you'll not be happy. But if you take a Sattvic approach, and if the wealth you acquire is a product of your life of sacrifice, you will find very, very secure, very, very happy, very, very contented. That's why he said contentment. The contentment comes because of not the wealth, is because the route you have taken to acquire wealth. That's what such a person is not bound by wealth. And woman is enjoyment. Woman symbolizes sukha prapti. So one is dukkha nivritti, which is avoid sorrow. Sukha prapti is enjoyment. He says, I am a humble dust of his hallowed feet. Charanan ki kheh, I'm just a dust of a man. That's the reason you touch a feet of a spiritual person, symbolizing the wisdom they live by, they stand on, the values they represent. Very powerful reminder to all of us. The moment you plunge into action, inject sattva into action. Action by itself is rajas. So you got to inject sattva into action so that you don't fall a prey to acquisition and enjoyment. Okay. As we have been mentioning, for those who only attend this session, please be reminded that we will not have a class next Monday morning or Sunday evening for you all in US. We will not be having a class, so we will meet you all in a fortnight from now. Right? Thank you. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om. Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Hari Om.